Welcome everyone. This is Dina from Mark's Group Live. Happy to be reviewing with you today how to get started with Zoho Invoice. After the video is over, feel free to email us at support@marksgrouplive.com for any questions on this subject or anything else Zoho. Be sure to rate this class as well, helping out your fellow Zoho users as well as us to improve our video library. Here are some of the key points we're going to talk about today. First, the whole purpose of Zoho Invoice is to help you create and send invoices to your customers and then collect payment. Within Zoho Invoice, you can customize the invoice template or use your own, and you can also set up automated reminders to your customers. In addition, there is a customer portal available so that your customers can view and manage their invoices directly. Let's go into Zoho Invoice now and take a look at what's here. The first thing you're going to see is a dashboard, and that will give you some information on some key items related to what's in Zoho Invoice. So you can see your receivables, you can see your sales and expenses. If you were tracking projects and billable hours or expenses, you would see that under projects. You would have your top expenses. Here we only have one expense, but if you had more than that, they would show here. The other thing you'll notice you can do is you can change the timeline of this fiscal year. If you were to do the previous quarter, we didn't have anything in there, so nothing would show up. So you can customize what you see here as well. And then you can see sales receipts and anything that was due. We had a sale today of $80, so you can see that's tracking through for the time period of this year. And this is the dashboard. Then the next item here is the contacts. And there's several ways you can add a new contact. Here in the contact section on the left, you can just click the plus button, or you can go within the contacts itself where it says plus new on the right side. You can click on create contact, or at the top next to Zoho Invoice, there's a quick create, and if you were to press that, you can go to customer and add a customer, and as we go through the other modules, you can always add them from here as well. So now let's first go in and look at this customer that we created and see what we can see. So as you can see right now, there is an outstanding receivable of $80, and you can see that just on the all contacts page or any other list you would create depending on what your needs were. So first you get an overview of the company and then the contact that you have. We can show that we sent them a invitation to our portal and it hasn't been accepted yet. You can re-invite it, you can delete, you can do a few different things here. Next we would have the address. We can add a new address if we wanted. Currency is important. What currency are they in? And you can edit items directly in here. Portal, we can show that we enabled the portal, but we can always disable it. The portal language, and add any other contact people as well. And then on the right side, what you're going to see is any information on unused credit, outstanding receivables, the payment due this period, and then you can see the incomes and expenses of either these last 6 months, this fiscal year, previous fiscal year, last 12 months, and last 6 months. And then you have a timeline of what the activity on this contact has been. So you can see that we added the contact, then we added an estimate, we updated an estimate, we updated the contact with the portal, we added another estimate, that was updated, invoice updated, and you would see the whole timeline on here as well. If you wanted to add a new transaction for this customer, you can click on new transaction and then add in either a new invoice, customer payment, etc. You can do a few things here. And then you have the more button as well, which gives you some additional options. And you can always attach a file or edit this contact. Next tab over would be comments. If we had any comments we wanted for internal, if somebody else was going in here, if you needed to say something. Sales shows the activity we have. We have 2 invoices here. So this is just a good way to get a snapshot of this customer. Mail, you can see we've sent notifications on the estimate and the invoice. And then a statement is here as well. and you can see that the balance due on the statement right now is $80. And this statement can be customized. If you click customize, we have this standard template. If we had other templates in here that we uploaded, etc., we can always add those or choose those. You can get a preview, and this would show just a sample of another invoice that had a lot of activity on it, so you could see what it would look like. Within this settings area, there are other templates that you can customize here as well. But for now, let's go back. So this is our customer. And again, like I mentioned, you can add a new one in a number of different areas. When you add a customer, a new contact, you have some information that you need: first and last name, company name, currency. You can decide here, right when you're setting them up, if you want to enable the portal for them, the language, etc. And then you can always have your customer here. The next thing we have is items. And items would be the goods that you were selling or the services, whatever you may want to eventually add on to an estimate or an invoice. Here we have one item called a widget. You can choose whether it's a good or a service. You can choose the units. Is it a box? Is it feet, etc.? And then the rate. So in this case, it's $10 per box for the widgets, and you can add a description. If you went to service, you would be able to add some information as well. And again, you can add a new widget from the new within the items. You can set item preferences. You can determine if you have any field customizations, the decimal rate for your quantity. If it's a whole number, you can always choose for this to be 0. And then if you wanted to enable any price list you may have, you could do that as well. Go back. And then the next thing is estimates. So we have 2 estimates in here, and you can see that these estimates have a status of invoiced, and they have different amounts. And you can see from this envelope on this first one that the invoice has been sent out to the customer. So if we were to open it, we can view the estimate here, and we can see the timeline of it was created, then it was emailed, and then it was converted to an invoice. And converting to an invoice is here at the top right, an option that you can do. And if we look, this looks similar to the statement. It is right now it's just a default standard template. You can change the template, you can customize it, same as we mentioned before. You can upload the logo, manage custom fields, etc., terms and conditions, and make any changes to this to make it more what you need as well. And then if you were done and this was sent out, well, this one we know was sent out, you can always convert it to an invoice. This one has already been invoiced. They asked if you want to do it again. We'll say no to that one. Then we have this one, which was never sent out. So we could always go back to the invoice, and if we view the invoice, then we can see that we never sent it out, and we can send this invoice out. We go back up to estimates, so you can see again, we can we have the different views that we can see the estimates. We can add a new estimate here directly here, and then we have some settings and preferences and custom fields we can add to these as well. Invoices is similar. Here is the invoice that was converted from the estimate. In this case, you can see it looks similar again to what the estimate looked like. You can then, the next option after you have the invoice and you've sent it out is that you can record payment. And if you record payment, then this would mean that you didn't have a credit card set up. So you would enter in the manually if it was a check, etc. But if we go back here, let's go into a draft. This is a draft invoice. And if we wanted to open the invoice, let's make edits to it so you can see. So you're choosing the customer name. You can view customer details if you want to. You can choose if you do that or not. It would come up here on the right. Then invoice number. One thing both in estimates and in invoice numbers you can choose how you want the format of the invoice number to be done. So if we click on this gear, you can see that you can auto-generate and you can have a prefix. Here it's INV. You can go in and change this, and then you can see that it would just do the next number. Or you can click on I will add them manually each time, and you can come up with your own version of what you want this to look like. If you had an order number you wanted to include, you'd have the invoice date. You can determine if it's today or another day, the payment terms, is it net 15, is it on receipt, etc. And if there was a specific due date, you can include it here as well. And then you have the widget here. That's what we had in the invoice. You can add a description. You can add another line. You can add another line in the estimate as well. And you can either go with the widget, or we can add another item. And I'll just call this large widget. The units, these would be boxes too, because these are larger. We'll say this is $20. Save that. And then you can see directly in the invoice, maybe you didn't have it in the estimate, but then the customer came back and asked for it to be included. You can add it here as well. And then you can see that there's now the $10 and the $20, which the invoice is automatically adding up to the 30. If you had a discount in either dollar or percent, you can add that in. Any shipping charges you had or any other adjustments you wanted to make, you can show here as well. And then what you have is you have payment options. You can, if you click on this gear, you can see that we can add gateways for the customer to make direct payments rather than worry about them sending in checks. You can update the customer notes, terms and conditions you can add in. You can upload any file you want. You can either save this or you can save and send it. And then you will see what the email to the company will look like. And if you needed to make any changes to this, you could. And it includes a link here as well. You can attach the invoice or not attach it, whichever you want. And then you would send the email. So now you can see that we have 2 invoices that have been sent by email. And let's say in this case, we received a payment. We received the $30, and the mode was either cash or check or credit card if it wasn't through our automated system. I'll keep that as cash. You can add, maybe you want to send a note out. You can send a note out, and you can customize what that looks like. Record payment. And now you can see that this invoice has been updated the payment's been received, etc. So then if we go to the payment received, you can see we do have the one payment. And if you have other payments come in, particularly not through credit cards, you can always add in those as well. Another thing you can do here is you can add in office supplies. If you think you'll end up invoicing those, you can add in, expenses. I made an office supply one, and you can keep track of expenses here. You can do expenses, mileage, etc. You can, let me go back into that. You can attach a receipt if you need to. You can either attach from your desktop or from the cloud, from something like a Dropbox or something like that. You can associate the expense with a customer if you know you want to, and then you can save it. And then if you wanted to make this a recurring expense, you could do that, etc. And you can have the expenses housed here. And then we have the timesheet. So timesheet, if you're tracking a project and you are billing your time to a customer, you can track your time here, and then it will automatically go into the invoice, and you can track your time here as well, and as well as the project. As you can see, you need to create a project first, and then you can create the expenses that go with it, and then log your time. Then we have reports. We have probably about 30 different reports that we can show. We can show some related to the sales, receivables, payments received. If we click on payments received, you can see we have the payment that we recorded for the cash. You can customize the reports. You can show it for different time periods. You can decide which columns you want to include. If you want certain filters, you can include a filter as well. Maybe you only want ones with a certain date or something, and then you'd want to run the report. You can schedule a report, which means that you can determine how often, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, what time of day, who should receive the report. This does not have to be someone in Zoho itself, so you can set up a report and send it out to people outside of Zoho and use this as your tracking system. And then the reports can also be exported either as PDFs, CSV files, or Excel sheets as well. And if we were to go back into our dashboard, go back this way. So this covers everything on the left. And then the only other thing I'd like to show you is the settings here. If you click on the gear on the top right, there's a lot of different aspects you can customize related to how your Zoho invoice looks. We have the organization profile, users and roles, if you want to add roles, whether you have an admin or if you want to have somebody else. Then you have preferences related to which modules you want to use here, the work week, etc. The client portal, you can set your preferences here, and then all of the different other areas as well. You can choose which currencies you use, how the taxes will work if you want to enable that. You can add expense categories if you wanted to organize the way your expenses are. Templates I showed you before. We have estimates, invoices, payment receipts, and customer statements. And as you can see by the plus new, you can always add one up that you want yourself. Then we have the email templates as well. These are the notification templates, and you can completely customize those. As I mentioned, you can send reminders. You can send up to 3 reminders. You can, if you press turn on, you can see that you're going to format what the email looks like, when you want to set the reminder, is it how many days after the due date or before the due date, etc. There's some automation you can do. You can also then integrate into either the payment processes, other Zoho apps, or other apps, and you can go ahead and use this along with your other Zoho products. So let's go back to what our key takeaways were. As you can see, and what I showed you is that you can create and send invoices to customers and collect payment within Zoho Invoice. You can customize the invoice template or the estimate template or any of the other templates, and you can also set up automated reminders. And then there's also the customer portal available so that customers can manage and view all of their invoices and estimates and all that themselves. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out our library for other training videos like this one. If you have any questions or suggestions on other classes or questions about Zoho, please email us at support@marksgrouplive.com. Thank you for watching.